Okay, now it's time to move for the second layer material, and for this layer I'm going to use this base material as a base. And let's add a filter, and I'm going to use matte finish rough. Okay, so let's decrease the whiteness in the base color. Yeah, this is the color that I want, maybe a little darker, something like this. Yeah, or we can, no, the darker is better. Okay, that's it. And let's add the next layer, which is color variation number 1. So let's add the mask. Okay, and in the mask I'm going to use a grunge. Number 2, I think it's good. Okay, let's increase the tiling and play with the balance and contrast. Yeah. Okay, maybe increase again. That's it. So let's go to the layer itself, and I just need to have color, and color should be dark blue. Okay, so this kind of color. Yeah, and let's change the blending mode to multiply, so can decrease the amount to something like 40. And let's add the roughness, and I'm going to play with the roughness here, maybe a little bluish tint. So let's change the blending mode to something like normal and turn off the roughness, so we can have this color effect on the base color channel. So everything is okay, and we can add another color variation, and let's add a fill layer. I'm going to use something like dent, okay, or maybe load number 2. Yeah, and let's decrease the size to something like 5, increase the contrast, decrease the balance. Okay, maybe in the noise parameter we can use the scale and disorder and random seed. So let's go back to the layer itself. I just need the color, and in here we can change the blending mode to something like soft light and play with the color, bluish tint. Yeah, and decrease the amount of the color, and let's increase the balance itself. So okay, let's change the blending mode to multiply, a little darker color, and that's it. We have this in color, and we can change the opacity for the mask itself. So let's go and add another fill layer, and I'm going to call it AO dirt. So let's add a black mask, and just we need to have color and roughness. Let's add a generator, and here I'm going to use ambient occlusion generator. Use macro detail, and in here I'm going to add the blade height. So we have everything here. Let's play with the global balance and this parameter 2. Okay, and I'm going to use a fill layer like dirt. Okay, I think this one is good. And let's multiply to the ambient occlusion area and increase the tiling amount. And now we have this. Okay, let's decrease the opacity of the grunge so we can have the ambient occlusion itself. At the same time, we multiply the grunge on the ambient occlusion area. And now I'm going to create a dark and maybe a little brown like this. And in the roughness, we can play with the roughness value. Something like 0.8 is good. So that's it. Let's go add another fill layer, which I'm going to call it surface details. So for the surface details, we are going to add some noise and scratches for the first time on the surface. And after that, in the next layers, we are going to focus on the scratches separately. So here, let's combine two different fill layer. I'm going to load the spot B and W spot 2. Yeah, it's a very good map. So let's increase the tiling. Let's play with the opacity here. Yeah, something like this. Let's add another fill layer and load grunge map 12. And now we can see what we have after changing the blending mode to the linear dodge and play with the opacity again. Change the tiling mode to something like 5, 6, or 4. It depends on the surface, the size of the model. And let's bring up the contrast and bring down the balance. Okay. So we have this kind of surface detail right now. And in here, I just need height and the roughness. So let's play with the roughness value. And let's play with the height. Okay, for the height, because we set the height data for the second layer in 0.1, if we use 0.1, nothing happened because they are in the same level. But if we want to subtract this mask from the second layer, we need to add the height value to something like 0.08. So let's go for the grunge map, and I'm going to use the invert. Okay, so this is better, but I think we can use this kind of effect with the value 0.09. So it's okay. We can play with the roughness value too. Okay. And maybe we can add metallic. Okay, or maybe color. I'm going to use dark color with the soft light. And as you can see, we have something inside the scratches. So this tiling, it's so visible. So let's bring up the tiling amount. Yeah, 3 is good. Actually, 3 is very good for this material. So we add surface color, and we can add a control mask or control layer, like control color or control layer. Change the blending mode to pass, and let's add apply to all channel to blending mode and add a filter. And in here, I'm going to use HSL. So, and I can bring up the lightness, bring down the lightness, change the saturation. Okay, as you can see, change the hue, and yeah, that's it. Okay, so let's add a paint layer here. I'm going to call it sharpen. Sharpen is a very good technique to bring up the quality of the texture in Substance Painter and in export texture. So let's change the blending mode to pass and apply it to all channel. And now I'm going to add a filter and just use sharpen. Okay, that's it. So let's bring down sharpen intensity to something like 0.5. Yeah, 0.5 is good. And we just need it in the color, roughness, and that's it. Not in metallic, not in AO or normal or opacity or anything else. So yeah, maybe for this surface detail, I'm not sure it's good enough or not. So let's bring down the opacity. Yeah, let's use a fill layer to subtract the mask. Okay, for example, early noise, we can use subtract and okay, let's change the scale from here, use balance. Now it's not a good map to control this one. Let's use something like leak. Yeah, I think the leak is very better because it can break up the mask very well in a unique way. So let's increase the tiling to number 2, play with the balance. Okay, and that's it. Okay, we can decrease the amount in the opacity. And yeah, I think, oh, it's so much better. So much better with the grunge leaks. And let's, yeah, I think I keep the opacity on 100. And that's it. So let's go for the edge highlight. I'm going to create edge highlight layer. Okay, I just need the color and the roughness. Roughness should be on something like 2.2. And for the color, we can use white value or default value for now. And let's add a black mask generator. Let's add edge. Okay, here I'm going to use macro height. And let's use blade height, reference channel on the height. Okay, that's it. Bring down the grunge amount and use edge smoothness. Okay, wear level. Okay, that's it. So let's add a filter like bevel or blur. Okay, that's it. Like this one. And I'm going to reduce the amount of the opacity to something like 30. And this is the edge highlight. As you can see, we can focus on the edge with this, but let's bring down the whiteness. Yeah, maybe it's better. Okay, so let's go to the base color. Yeah, its effect. The roughness. Maybe in the roughness, we can change the blending mode to something else, like subtract or anything else. Yeah, maybe keep it on the normal for now. Yeah. So that's it. Okay, let's go for the next layer. In this layer, I'm going to create a specific effect on the surface. I just want to exaggerate some lines on the surface that tell us, okay, we have a brush line surface. So let's rename this one to metal lines. And now let's add the black mask. We are going to base color channel in the layers. And in here, I'm going to add a fill. So let's add anisotropy. Okay. And change the rotation to 90. Change tiling to something like 6. And let's bring down the balance and use the contrast value. Okay, now let's go to the noise parameter. And we can play with this amount. I think 3 is better. And that's it. So let's decrease the opacity to 30 for anisotropy noise. And I'm going to use sharpen effect here. Okay. And to play with the sharpen amount. Let's add a level to control the mask. And yeah, with moving sliders and closing them together, we can create this line effect. So what is the effect? I just need color and roughness. For the roughness, I'm going to set the value to 0. So we have a shiny line here. And for the color, let's keep it white and bring down the opacity to something like 5. Or maybe 5 is too much. For example, 1 or 2, it's better. And let's bring down the opacity of the mask itself. Okay, as you can see the line effect. Okay, let's remove the paint from here. And now we can add a filter like warp to break a straight line. So like this. And we can add a fill layer like BNW spot 1 and bring up the tiling, choose multiply, or we can use subtract 2. Yeah, like this. Okay, so this is the metal lines. We can increase the amount of whiteness like this one. As you can see, we have some interesting detail in here. So let's add another layer. I'm going to call it surface bump. Okay, so I just need height and roughness. So let's add a black mask, and we need to set something like 12 because we have 10 for the on surface effect. And if we want to subtract something from the surface, we need to set below the 10. And if we are going to add something to the surface, we need to set the amount higher than 10 or 0.1. So let's create our mask. I'm going to add a fill layer. And now we are going to search for dirt. I think dirt 5 is very good. Okay, let's increase the tiling. Okay, to something like 10. Oh, this is a very good surface detail. And we can play with the balance a little. Okay, we can play with the scale over here. or disorder or random seed. So let's add 11 with the roughness near 0. So you can see the surface bump. Okay, so let's add the surface scratches. So let's create the first scratches layer. Okay, let's just keep the color and the roughness. I'm going to add a black mask. And now let's add a fill layer. And in here, I'm going to search scratches rough. That's it. Let's bring up the tiling. For example, 5 or 6. Okay. Play with the quantity, tiling, width, length. Okay, let's remove dust intensity. Okay, and bring up the scratch mask. So like this. Yeah. And we can create long scratches. So that's it. Let's bring up the whiteness and change the blending mode to something like overlay, or I think soft light is better, and bring up the roughness to 0.8. So let's change the multiply, or yeah, I think the soft light is better, and play with the opacity here. Yeah. And let's add another scratches layer. Okay. And we can duplicate this layer. So let's go to the mask. Make the tiling a little bigger. Play with the balance. Use random seed. So let's add another fill layer and use another mask. For example, grunge paint scratched. Contrast, balance, increase the tiling. Okay. And change the blending mode to linear dodge. Yeah. So what is the logic behind this creation and separating layers for scratches? Whenever we have different layers related to different type of scratches, we can create more variation with more control, and without repetition, we can create the unique surface. So this is the way we can create this kind of effect. Okay, I think this is enough. Yeah, and let's create a dirt layer. And in the dirt layer, we have a dark brown. Yeah, like this one. Okay. Yeah, with the high amount in the roughness. And let's add a black mask. I'm going to add a generator like dirt. Okay. And in the macro detail, let's load the blade height and change the reference channel to height. Okay. And yeah, let's play with the parameter. Okay, something like AO depth. That's it. And let's add another fill layer. I'm going to load bronzes, leak. So yeah, I think leaky paint, it's a good option for using here. Let's change the multiply. bring up the tiling amount, play with the contrast and the value. Okay. And maybe 90-degree. Yeah, it's so perfect. But let's bring down the opacity of the color so it's not related to the color. And we can play with the opacity and the dirt. So yeah, this is very good for the dirt layer. So we can go here and play with the AO depth, AO radius, grunge amount, dirt level, and control the mask. So yeah, you have everything here on this surface. So this is enough for the second layer material. And now we need to go and add some decals, lines, and tags on the surface and finish up our material